I woke up to the sound of a chainsaw. I didn't own. No, not the bear in the backyard kind, but the dull, confident slice of asphalt and the faint, ridiculous tink of silverware, like somebody was already making themselves at home in my place. And I thought, if this is a prank, it's a real bad one. By the time I got down to the lane, there she was, Karen Floral Robe Energy, without the robe clipboard, crowned like a scepter, smiling as if she had rented the sunrise. I nearly laughed until I saw the saw cutting through my grass and the fence panel lying in the dirt, and then the laugh turned to a kind of cold, slow interest, because you learn early on that people with clipboards sometimes think clipboards are authority. It started with a letter, as a lot of bad movies do. Heavy paper embossed seal, the kind of stationery that tries to bluff you into believing the lie it carries, and inside was an offer to buy an unused access strip for a price so low it felt like an insult dressed up as civility. The letter gave me until Friday to accept, or the association would escalate through county safety channels to secure community emergency access, those scare phrases that sound like City Hall but smell like a bully's ultimatum. I read the parcel number twice because that's what my family taught me. Know what you own, know who you're dealing with, and don't let a pretty envelope do your thinking for you. The parcel matched a tract my folks had held forever, a skinny ribbon of ground everyone ignored until someone wanted to cross it, pave it, or pretend it belonged to the nice people with the neat hedges. I opened the attached PDF and the metadata stared back, exported the night before, file name, each_lane expansion _rev7. Not negotiation setup. So I took screenshots, printed the offer, and wrote the export time in the corner with a black pen. Because I don't argue first, I preserve first. 2 days later, Karen staged one of those HOA stewardship walks. Wildfire readiness, shared responsibility, respect for property lines. She spoke like an instruction manual for neighborly virtue, and then she stepped over my orange-capped survey iron and told a landscaper, "That old line is not controlling. We need the corridor open before he lawyers this up." I recorded her on my phone, one clip, gave me intent hypocrisy and the kind of public-private choreography bullies like to rehearse. You get used to people saying one thing and doing another. It's the in-between that matters, the time-stamped in-between that tells the story. I filed a clean records request that afternoon. Board resolutions, title reports, county correspondence, let the paper show what the power play couldn't. Karen sent back certified mail. A thick packet of pressure language, a green receipt stamped like proof of seriousness. But there was no signed board resolution, no title exhibit, nothing showing a county order, just an unsigned memo with bold language and a lot of breath. A week of filings became a theater of documents. She wanted the power of procedure without the paperwork procedure requires. Then she escalated, filed a county complaint claiming my gate and my haystacks, yes, haystacks, interfered with an emergency egress route for first responders. The problem: no fire district map ever showed that route, and the color exhibit she attached used marketing lot lines, not the recorded plat. My attorney pulled the county intake log. The complaint stamped at 8:11 a.m. and at 8:19 a.m. Karen had emailed a paving contractor. 8 minutes, people filing camouflage on Monday morning saw blades on Tuesday. On site that morning, there were 3 men with tools and Karen sunglasses, clipboard eyes, like a queen who assumed the crown had always been hers. I walked up slow and asked, "You boys have a survey?" The foreman looked at Karen for permission, and that was answer enough. Karen tilted her head and said, "This is safety access work, county supported." I said, "Then you won't mind showing me the order?" Shockingly, she produced a smile instead of a county order. I didn't try to physically stop anyone that's a different kind of mess. I preserved. I shot dashcam timestamps, texted neighbors for photos, emailed the foreman a preservation notice, and my lawyer pushed TTRO papers to the courthouse. I called the sheriff and reported active trespass with property damage. By noon, a deputy rolled up, looked at the parcel printout, took in the fence panel on the ground, and told the crew, "Tools down." The foreman tried to argue legal work had been handled earlier. None of that mattered when the deputy had the printout and the fence in pieces. That's where a lot of folks stop. Get the deputy, maybe patch the fence, move on. But I wasn't built for moving on from things that smell like entitlement and paperwork theater. I hired a title officer, asked for the original subdivision closing materials, and had my attorney file public records requests for every plat revision and internal planning email tied to the neighborhood's common areas. While the slow work of paper unfolded, Karen switched tactics from dirt to documents. The HOA recorded an affidavit claiming long-term maintenance over the tract, then mailed residents a special assessment notice saying legal costs were climbing because I was obstructing emergency safety improvements. Classic scare move, make people fear the bill, and they'll side with the loudest voice. The board consent trail showed signatures completed by DocuSign before the meeting even started. The assessment notices had the wrong parcel suffix on every page. The seams were showing, but you don't see seams until you look for them. 2 nights after the saw, Karen performed certainty on the pool deck, flanked by 2 board members and 1 deputy, delivering a "We are the community" speech with one hand on the railing and the other pointed at me like a punctuation mark. She said the county recognized this lane improvement as a safety matter, that legacy title noise will not stop this community. I stayed calm and asked the question everyone in the circle needed answered. Did the county issue an order? She danced around it. The county is aware. We're operating in reliance on our records. And in that dodge, she admitted the county had not ruled ownership. Then came the twist, not fate, but ink. My title officer called and told me to sit down. Buried in the original owner's title policy was an exception schedule excluding Tract G, the exact strip Karen claimed as HOA amenity. Attached was an internal transmitter from the developer's closing counsel: do not include Tract G in amenity deed, negotiate later after build-out. Deliberately postponed boxed a problem. Someone impatient tried to declare solved by speed and volume. When I read that line, I felt a kind of quiet snap. The truth doesn't always look cinematic. Sometimes it looks like an exception clause in a dusty file. The final showdown was 3 days later, staged like a courthouse in sunlight. Karen in her victory outfit, her attorney, 2 board members, the contractor foreman, a county recorder's rep, a licensed survey crew, the same deputy, and enough residents to form an audience. She opened with civility. Let's resolve this like adults. Style. I told her we are. And the surveyor set up the recorder, opened the chain of title packet. The wind moved through the ornamental trees like it was holding its breath, and the bearings were called out slow and clinical. For 1 second the world held, then the crowd shifted. Someone said, "You told us this was HOA land." And a board member literally took a step back like the asphalt had dropped under him. The foreman looked at Karen as if he suddenly had a mortgage on his conscience. Her face emptied out, confidence evaporated on survey-grade bearings. My process server handed her attorney the TTRO papers. The deputy looked at the disturbed boundary, looked back at Karen and said, "This work stops now." That was the reversal. Karen had built the crowd for my humiliation, and instead she got a public shutdown. Paperwork caught up with arrogance. The court kept the restraining order in place. The HOA withdrew the recorded affidavit and sent a corrective notice to residents, and they stipulated on the record that the emergency access claim had been overstated. The judge ordered the fence restored to the surveyed line, the stakes and stripe marks removed, and the HOA to pay for a licensed restoration contractor of my choosing. Every false or misleading filing tied to the tract had to be withdrawn or corrected, and the judge awarded attorney's fees tied to the preservation work title review and emergency response costs. Karen's exit wasn't dramatic so much as bureaucratic, removed as president before the month ended, barred from serving on the board again during the term, and the board's insurer sent reservation of rights letters that felt like cold water on a hot head. A week later, I stood by my repaired fence with a paper cup of bad coffee while the last contractor packed up, watching a neighbor who had texted me the upstairs photo walk over and ask, "So that's it?" I looked at the survey cap glinting in the dirt and felt the quiet satisfaction that comes from watching a bully lose to records, timestamps, and a deputy who knew how to say, "Tools down." If there's a lesson here, it's not the cinematic one, it's subtler, the kind that sits in your bones after the shouting stops. Before you threaten a man with community safety, make sure you actually own the ground you're standing on, because speed and volume are not substitutes for title and truth. Paperbacks and green receipts don't make you honorable. They make you practiced at pretending. Real justice, small, local, satisfying, came down in a deputy's calm, a surveyor's bearings, and a judge who wanted evidence more than theatrics. So tell me, what would you have done in my shoes if the person with the clipboard showed up at your gate and claimed the sky was theirs by right? Tell me your story. Tell me where you stood your ground or where you walked away. And if you've ever been on the other side, tell me that too. Share this. If you've seen a neighbor bend the rules, drop a comment. If you think the system worked or failed. And let's talk about where the line is between community and control.